All right, we have the May 9th meeting of the Conservation Commission. We'll stand to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first on we have septic repair for Colin Labrie, 212 Cabins Neck Road. Anybody here for Colin Labrie?
I am.
All right. Yeah. You should put in the next one for Tom, we can get new magnets.
Okay, we'll do that.
You can't afford that. I'm gonna have to override for those magnets.
Just still wondering how Laura Adams was standing there and making statements.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start.
Is that town meeting?
Oh, really? As a non-resident?
I'm Allison Caesar. I'm a civil and environmental consultant, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Colin Labrie. This is a site that you guys have previously already oversaw for an NOI in regards to the new work that would be done for the dock and the house structure was changing. Right now, we just need to repair the septic system. This is realistically the only place that it can go, and it is within the limits of the 200-foot riverfront area. It's mostly just between the 100-foot and the 200-foot riverfront area, with some of the work also existing within the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bay. The septic system that we have designed is going to be a denitrification system to hopefully reduce the number of those suspended solids and hopefully better for the area. The land itself has been pre-existing non-conforming 3-bedroom single-family home lot since inception essentially. And if there are any questions that we've got, you guys can hear.
All right, thank you. Chris?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Allison is correct. Colin Labrie was before us. 212 Cabins Neck Road, this is a request for determination of applicability. Allison Caesar here with CEC. Report date is May 2nd, 2023. I think this is still waiting Board of Health approvals. I'm not really sure yet on that one. Also, the site visit was on May 2nd, 2023. Detailed description of the work. The owner has filed to replace the existing septic system. The applicant has a current order of conditions to construct a new home. The septic was not included as they had a passing Title V. The Board of Health has required on new construction septic system to provide a denitrification component. This system is proposed in the outer portion of the riverfront area. The new tanks will be placed 115 feet from mean high water and leaching field approximately 130 feet. Erosion controls will be installed around the lower work area. Work is allowed under 310 CMR 10.58 as a minor activity in the riverfront, as this is a repair of a pre-existing home. Recommendations to the board: the Westport Conservation Commission should approve this project on a negative box 2 determination.
Thank you. Phil? How you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Has this been approved by the Board of Health then?
I don't recall
All right.
their,
So I would give a motion with pending Board of Health approval.
Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion to approve pending Board of Health.
Motion to approve on negative box 2 determination pending Board of Health approval, if necessary.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. So if you make it to Board of Health, you're all set. Good luck with that.
Thanks, Allison.
Phil, is it true I hear that you guys wanted to do a regulation of 200 feet from the wetlands for a new septic?
News to me.
All right.
The,
It's the word on the street.
no,
Just saying,
no.
rumors.
There's enough balls in the air as it is, isn't it?
It's like high school. All right, Rebecca Turner, notice of intent, 44 Old Harbor Road, construct single-family dwelling, well, roof infiltration system, and driveway in the riverfront. Phil, how are you, sir? Green card?
Yes, you do, Mr. Chair.
See them, it's like you do, right?
Only the magnets. Okay,
Put that in the list.
right, new magnets.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Bill Smith with Civil Engineering Concepts. Property is 44 Old Harbor Road. It's a 1.7-acre lot located on the west branch of the Westport River. Old Harbor Road is over here to the west of the property. It's a vacant lot. There is an existing foundation that's on the property. I hear tell that used to be used for bringing ice in and out during the olden days. We're proposing a 4-bedroom, single-family dwelling. We've got two resource areas. We've got the 200-foot riverbank setback in here. We also have 100-foot riverbank, riverfront, 100-foot riverbank. We tried to keep all the proposed work as close to Old Harbor Road and as far from the river as we possibly can. We've made an application to the Board of Health, but they have, I think they're waiting for input from conservation before they move forward on it.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, this is Rebecca Turner, 44 Old Harbor Road. This is a notice of intent application presented by Civil Engineering Concepts with Bill Smith here this evening. The report date is May 2nd, 2023. Again, this is Board of Health pending, as Bill just mentioned. This is a pre-existing lot. For the record, this is part of the Turner property. The main homestead was a little further to the south. This is the northerlymost portion of that property that was subdivided back a number of years ago when the mother and father were still alive. Since the brother has sold the main house, which is again adjacent to this property, and this is the remaining last parcel of land within that Turner homestead. This is right as you start going up the hill of Old Harbor Road before the split. It's on the left-hand side. Again, Rebecca Turner, the owners have filed to propose a single-family home, well, and sewage disposal system on a lot that has been in existence prior to 1997. The lot is a 1.55 acre lot located on the west branch of the river. The lot is entirely wooded. It is proposed to construct a single-family home 150 feet from mean high water. The home will have roof runoff directed into a dry well system and discharge into a stone trench. The amount of disturbance proposed is 4,953 square feet, which is meeting the allowance of the disturbance under 310 CMR 10.584 in parentheses D in parentheses. The sewage disposal system is outside the riverfront area, but within 100 feet of the coastal bank. Alternatives for consideration cannot be achieved as they have designed the project to the maximum extent feasible for this parcel under zoning setbacks. The proposed home will have no established lawn as designed. As you can see, it's limited. There is maybe a 12-foot lawn in the rear portion and maybe extending towards the south along that septic system, but heading into the riverfront, there is very little activity shown. The applicant may consider a smaller design home, which could allow for some rear yard area. So in this case, this is a large home footprint. If someone did buy this, they could consider a smaller home and maybe meeting the setbacks of what we have established here, they could maybe get a little more use of this property. No further work on a lot could be allowed under the regulations. This is a limit of 5,000 square feet of disturbance. And the remainder of that area, not only would it be within that coastal bank in yellow, but it also would be entirely within the riverfront. My suggestions for the commission this evening is the Westport Conservation Commission should require a split rail fence with conditions in perpetuity to not allow any further work to alter the riverfront area. The split rail fence should be installed along the limit of work. All roof runoff should be directed into a dry well system, and this application and motion should be pending a file number and Board of Health approvals.
We have gotten the files and started.
Yeah, we do.
We do have it now?
2682.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is that any? Just the bottom.
Well, may require a while to have a study,
Yeah.
that's just standard stuff.
Yep.
And then plus the maximum alteration, 5,000 feet. All right.
It is a denitrification advanced treatment septic system, and we are well outside of the flood zone as well. That helps the board make a decision.
All right. You're okay with the split rail fence?
Yeah, actually, we called for that on the plan, so that was being proposed. As with the infiltration trench, so we do have carried that.
Okay, any questions? Table?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how the sewage disposal system can be outside the riverfront area, but within 100 feet of the coastal bank. Wouldn't the 200-foot riverfront area start at the coastal bank?
No, the
No?
riverfront area starts at mean high water.
Okay,
Coastal bank in this case is a area determined based on the coastal bank policy the state has, and it's based on
how steep it is.
how steep
Yeah,
the
right,
slope
right,
is,
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
So this is the first significant break in slope, actually.
Okay.
It's very gentle going out to the marsh. So they basically are lucky that the way it is designed in that case, because they have to maintain a minimum of 50 feet from that setback of that coastal bank with any leaching field or septic tank. So they do meet that well enough beyond that setback. So the only thing they're dealing with here is entirely riverfront.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't mention there is a wetland delineation, but it seems to be the least of the resource areas and extent of what we have on this lot.
Anybody else have a question, table? Anybody in the audience have a question? Okay, no more questions, looking for a motion, please?
So I'd move to approve the plan for a four-bedroom house at 44 Old Harbor Road, subject to the requirement for a split rail fence along the limit of work, conditions in perpetuity to not allow any further work to alter riverfront area, all roof runoff into the dry well, and subject to Board of Health approval.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, second from Bert, all those in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimous, so.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Longville Homes, notice of intent, lot 1, Sodom Road, construction single-family dwelling, driveway, well grade, utility, drainage, and discharge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Bill. Good night, Tom.
Okay, the green cards on us? Oh, yeah, we got one.
Yeah, we got both of them have.
Will Connolly, Senior Consulting Engineers on behalf of Longville Homes. The site is Lot 1 Sodom Road. It's a 77,000 square foot lot on the corner of Sodom Road and Narrows Ave. There's a BBW to the west of the lot, which was approved by NORAD. We're proposing a single-family dwelling with associated driveway, well, septic, and drainage. The septic system is completely outside the 100-foot buffer, as well as the roof infiltration system. Most of the work will be just grading the driveway, which will access off Narrows Ave, and the detention basin in the rear of the lot, which is required per Board of Health regulations. We're proposing silt sock along the limit of work, all of which is outside the 25-foot buffer. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Bruce?
Mr. Chairman, Long-Built Homes, Lot 1, Sodom Road. This is map 59, lot 66B, rather. This is a notice of intent application. Zenith Consulting is the representative. Report date is May 5th, 2023. I don't have a file number at this time, so that's pending. And Board of Health approval is pending. Detailed description of the work. The applicant Long-Built Homes has purchased the 4 A&R lots on Sodom Road. This is considered Lot 1, and it has frontage on both Sodom Road and Narrow Ave. The wetland delineation shown is approved on an order of resource area delineation, or ORAD as abbreviated. The single-family home is proposed 60 feet from the edge of the bordering vegetated wetland at the closest point. The lot will have the driveway access off of Narrow Ave. The septic leaching field will be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone along Sodom Road, and will be including a microfast treatment system. All roof runoff will be directed into a dry well system. The applicant has also proposed a stormwater detention basin for runoff per the Board of Health regulation. I question if there is actually 2-foot separation of groundwater on that particular design, but I'll further discuss. The design basin is entirely within the buffer zone. It will have a French drain pipe extending from the driveway over at the Narrow Ave entrance across the rear of the home, and it will discharge into the basin. This basin, in my opinion, should not be required, not necessarily permitted, but should not be required. This is a single-family home. They're not going to generate enough, I think, runoff to cause it to be in that capacity of a size system. And furthermore, the French drain location will be limiting factor in any future use of this backyard. This place has no uplands, so if somebody wants to put a pool in this backyard, or I'm not saying an in-ground, that might be tight, but an above-ground pool, they have this French drain that's only 2 feet below the grade, that it would be a limiting factor. So I don't particularly think that that is necessarily needed, given that the roof runoff is already being proposed in an infiltration system. Furthermore, the applicant is constructing, at my, again, suggestion, a split rail fence along the tree line. This fence will be set 25 feet to 60 feet away from the BVW, and it will be the limit of all future work. So in this case, this lot is a field. It's basically all the developable land is the field. So the tree line immediately within the limits of the edge of that field would be demarcated by that split rail fence. And that would be limiting, again, not only use of the lot, but encroachment toward the wetland. Recommendations, the Westport Conservation Commission should motion to approve pending the file number issuance with the Board of Health approval and conditions that the split rail fence be installed as shown, which will be the limit of all work, and consider not approving the detention basin as the amount of work is excessive for a single-family house with limited uplands. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
You have a...
263. There is a file number. It's SC 80263.
2683.
2683, I'm sorry. You don't sneaking those in. I didn't know that. Thank you.
All right, we have any discussion from the table?
So I just wanted to talk about the,
Go ahead, Bert.
I was just saying, you say the applicant has proposed a stormwater detention basin per BOH regulations. Does that mean the Board of Health is requiring the basin?
They're requiring you initiate measures for a storm event of up to 100-year storm event, which is extremely excessive, in my professional opinion, for a single-family home. This design is incorporating those regulations beforehand. The Board of Health hasn't commented on this. So yes, Bert, this is a regulation the Board of Health is implementing.
Go ahead, Bill.
so I was going to say something about that.
Go ahead.
So this is a regulation that has been on the books even before I came on the board. And it is more conservative, if that's the right word, than the DEP regulations for stormwater, the application of stormwater standards, which exempt single-family homes. So, so for actually, just in passing, so for the last few years, so to speak, been trying to have the planning board, Chris, and the Board of Health get together and figure out how we can reconcile the kind of these three different views of how stormwater should be managed. But right now, we've been enforcing the regulation because it is on the books, and there have been a lot of properties that have complied with the regulations as they're written. So I respect what Chris is saying. I mean, the idea, is obviously to promote recharge and also not to allow excess stormwater, particularly related to driveways, go off onto other people's property and that kind of, or on public roads, which is not that unusual. And, damaging the public roads, so then, the residents have to pay to get them fixed. So, so with all due respect to Chris, I would not, or I'm not sure what the Board of Health would do if the Concom took a position, an affirmative position not to approve it. I just don't know exactly how that would play out.
Is that pond being used for both houses, for both lots, the next one coming up? there?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's gonna,
they are incorporated together, correct.
Yep.
This one, again, has that limiting of the drain that cuts across the rear of the property.
yeah. So,
That's up to the homeowner. So-
Well, it is, I'm not criticizing what the
Right.
board, what is being required, I just think it is, this is a site with a water table where infiltration is just not gonna work. So they can put roof run up into dry wells all they want, and this French drain, in my opinion, might be more filled with water in the wintertime than actually draining water. It's intercepting groundwater, this is a very high water table site, and lastly, that pond needs to maintain a 2-foot separation, which they do say they have, but where that information is coming from is from the streets perk test. No one's done a test pit in that pond. So if it is recommended by the Board of Health to be continuing to do that, they should be actually having them implement a test in that area to make sure they meet the stormwater requirements, which is 2-foot separation to groundwater. In some lots, you can't achieve that and have a gravity flow, in other words.
Right.
Unless you fill the site in immensely amount with
Right.
use of retaining wall, I guess you would say.
Chris, how are you gonna control the rainwater that comes from the Sodom side and just literally dumps into both of these lots? Like any rainstorm, it's basically the bottom of the hill. It literally goes right across the street and it's gonna go, what I'm assuming is right in between both of these houses. And it is significant. It's not a little bit. You get a little rain, it floods back there.
yeah, and that's, I believe, I wasn't the design engineer on this,
I mean,
but
it's-
I believe that's why we put the trench drain in there, because we have to collect everything from basically.
You have a 77-acre farm right next door and this is these houses are right at the bottom.
Yes.
Yes, it's gonna be, okay.
Well, good luck. All right, any other comments?
So Chris, this is,
No.
the next one we're dealing with is south of that, so that,
Yep.
that 11-acre piece is what, subdivided into two? Is that what happened?
4.
4?
Yep,
There are gonna be 4 houses on that strip?
4 houses on that field, 4 Form A lots, correct.
Is it 200 feet of frontage?
150.
150.
Isn't that the whole lot, isn't it a meadow?
The whole,
It is, right?
It's
I mean, you're on Sodom Road.
It's a thin strip. It's a very thin strip of
Yeah.
land.
On the map.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
That water runs down there from both sides. It goes
Sure
down
does.
the Arb- It goes down the Arb and goes into side piece. And then the other floods over. It doesn't take much rain any longer
Nope.
to fill the street up with water.
The drains don't do much.
The drains are not functioning.
No, they weren't.
Okay. Does anybody have, go ahead, Jason.
No, that was just
Okay.
a question slash comment, that it appears to be like a wet meadow from the road.
All right.
Which it is.
All right. Does anybody have any comments from the audience?
Are they gonna build up the
You-
land?
If you want to come up and just state your name, sir, please.
Anthony Ferraro?
Just behind the mic, if she gets it on the TV, behind the podium, please.
For the masses.
We have pretty good ratings.
Anthony Ferraro. Are they gonna build the property up from the existing, and how much are they gonna do it?
Yeah, it'll be built up, I mean, where the house is, it's gonna be built up about 3 feet or so. And then in the back, it's gonna be built up a couple feet, then it'll just be graded off to the natural grade behind the house. So it'll be built up a couple feet.
It's still gonna be, it's kind of gonna be even dangerous, is that road is fast area, and trying to kind of, any kind of an incline, it's gonna be hard to get in and out of those driveways also.
Yeah.
I know the narrow avenue side, that's kind of smart, coming that way. That was protected from that little island area, but the others, especially lot 2, is gonna be really, really wet coming from the street. And the one on the way far corner, which you haven't addressed, that's on the way already.
All right, thank you, sir. Do you have any other comments? Do you have any more comments or questions from the table? All right, looking for a motion. I think we should leave the detention pond in there since it affects both lots, and there seems to be a need for some stormwater management, although it may not work as effectively as we'd like, but that's my opinion.
Well, just to talk it through, I mean, I think that we could, because it would also, I guess, be subject to Board of Health approval of the septic system. So we could also make it subject to approval, Board of Health, of the stormwater management systems for both lots.
All right, why don't you make a motion then, effective to that effect?
Okay, so I will move to approve the plan for Lot 1 Sodom Road, subject to the condition that of approval by the Board of Health for the septic system and also the stormwater management system for Lot 1 and the abutting lot, since the stormwater system is handling both properties. And also that a split rail fence be installed as shown on the plan, and that be the limit of all work.
You always, if you want, Phil, maybe you'll do it at the Board of Health, but maybe want to just suggest and do a perk test on the detention pond to make sure it's actually going to work, or if it needs to be built up at all.
Yeah, I made a note about the 2-foot separation,
All
but,
right. All right, do we have a second on that?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
I'm opposed.
Yes.
Let's get nice and close. So we have,
1, 2,
let's see,
3.
Kevin abstains, Jake opposes. No, anybody else opposed? No, everybody else is for it. So 1, 2, so it's 5. Myself, Jason, Phil, Bert, and Tom. All right? Okay. Thank you. All right, Longville Homes, Lot 2, Sodom Road, construct single-family dwelling, driveway, well grading, utility drainage system, and discharge. Whatever you're ready.
All right. Bill Connolly, Zenith Consulting Engineers for the record, on behalf of Longville Homes. Lot 2 Sodom Road, it's essentially a carbon copy of Lot 1. I don't know if I need to bore you with the details. They're going to access off Sodom Road in the front here. There's slightly less impact on this lot on the BBW. The house might be barely in the 100-foot buffer, the septic's completely out. And it's just going to be the detention basin and grading in the rear, as well as tree clearing. But we have silt sock proposed for erosion control on this lot as well. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Chris?
What's the file number on this, 84?
2684.
Mr. Chairman, Long-Built Homes, Lot 2, Sodom Road. The Zenith Consulting is representing. It's a notice of intent application. Report date is May 5th, 2023. Again, this is pending Board of Health. Site visit was also on May 5th, 2023. Description of the work, the applicant has purchased the A&R lot that will be accessed from Sodom Road. The order of resource area delineation has been approved. As previously mentioned, the single-family home will be constructed just outside of the buffer zone. The well will be located 58 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland edge. The portion of the stormwater detention basin, as we discussed, expands onto this lot as well. The roof runoff will be directed into a stone dry well system. The applicant is also installing a continuous section of that split rail fence along the tree line to limit all future work on the lot. The detention basin, in my opinion, again, as I mentioned, should not be considered. Recommendations, as this is very similar, the Westport Conservation Commission should consider approving, minus pending file number, but pending Board of Health's approval on the septic system and the stormwater basin with a split rail fence to be installed as designed and will be the limit of all future work. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Or any questions or comments from the audience? Not a motion?
Okay, so, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I will move to approve the plan for Lot 2 Sodom Road, pending or subject to Board of Health approval for the septic system and the stormwater management system, and a split rail fence be installed as designed, which will be the limit of all future work.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay, it was Phil and Bert. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Yeah.
Abstain.
Okay, same as last time. Kevin abstained.
No, I oppose this one.
Okay, Jason opposed, and
Jake.
Jake.
Oh, not Jason.
No, Jason and Jake.
Both.
All right, so the motion,
Abstain?
no, they both objected, and Kevin abstained.
Neighbor.
And I approve Phil, Bert, and Tom. All right, that's it, please. You're all set.
We don't sign right now.
Okay, we have next is Edward and Patricia Kent, notice of intent, 1478 Beechwood Road, SE 2681, construct fixed pier floor gangway, maintain seawall riverfront. This is going to be continued for 2 weeks. Correct, Chris? Wait, about 4? 2?
I would put them on the first one of June, to be honest with you, because we got a big meeting already, Mr. Chairman. First meeting in June, you know. 6, we just talked about it, 6 and the 23rd, right?
We're going to space in 2 weeks?
It's June 6th, Mr. Chairman.
6 it is 6, okay, so looking for a continuance
Continue these both to the same date.
to
Ken?
June 6th. Need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second.
All right.
That's it.
So that was who seconded it? Kevin seconded that. All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. Next one is Ward Mooney, notice of intent 1702 F Strip Road, form of aquatic management for removal of invasive species in the buffer zone. This is also going to be continued to June 6th.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to continue the Ward Mooney.
Move to, go ahead.
Motion to continue. June 6th.
Okay, that was Jason and Jake. All those in favor? Opposed?
All right.
All right, thank you, everybody. Next, we have certificate of compliance for Douglas Palmer, SE 82372, 416 River Road.
I'm confused. I'm here for Mooney.
Oh.
We get a-
Oh, you're here for Mooney.
Oh, you're for Mooney, yes, I'm sorry. Ward is here also.
Let's go.
Guys,
Let's do it.
I apologize, I didn't know you guys were here.
Oh, that's all right.
We have to
I see everybody else.
I was wondering why you were here for the
I thought I might be
continuance.
able to plug into your TV, but we're talking about such a small area, we may not need many visuals, so.
I didn't grab it, I didn't know they would be here, but I can certainly
Yeah,
get
we'll
it,
grab
Mr.
it.
Chairman.
Okay.
I apologize, guys. I didn't hear from you.
Sean McCarthy, SHA.
Hold on, we'll get started in a second.
Solitude Lake Management.
Do you have your green card, you have a notification card, too? Do you have a notification?
I'd be happy to bring my laptop.
They were sent
They were sent in?
to, by, for an email from, Marion Nickerson. Yeah, and they're also on a massive, like, 100-page document that I believe you guys have too, so.
I'll check, see if they're.
I don't have them with me, they're just electronic. Go on to the next one.
Oh. Applicants are all right. Nothing like a bunch of teeth, man, feel a tickle.
You feel something.
And once you feel a tick on your thing,
Forget it.
you're right. I just saw your wife on the Fiesta.
I am. Cross games and everything. It wasn't bad as I thought.
This is making me
You guys don't have proof of notifying the abutters, right? You didn't get any of that information from?
Well, there was a document sent in that had all that information, including all the names and everything with it.
With the Solitude submittal?
What do I know?
Yes. Let's see if I can pull that up here. Fortunately, it's such a large document, I notice all the pages have been loaded. There's like 49 pages in this one.
I know they have the big submittal of the.
There should be a section in there for abutters. I believe she sends two. She sends an abbreviated version and then an extended version, which has many more pages of notification details and things like that.
I drive by there, there's deer.
Do you have a copy or no?
I have it on my computer, yes.
Do you have the certified or something on the computer to verify? Because
Yellowstone.
I didn't get that in. I'm still going here, but.
Yeah.
Here we go, there it is, friend, I'm sorry.
Okay, good, good.
We're good.
I was panicking.
No, don't panic, because I hate when they combine it all together, because,
That's
yes.
why some people want it all together.
All right,
It's separated.
so we're gonna have the.
And here's the receipts, Mr. Chairman.
Right, yeah, so we're gonna have the hearing for, is there any, environmental?
Yes, it's SE 802676. And I have no problem having a hearing, Mr. Chairman, at all. I'd like to get it off the docket.
All right, so we have Ward Mooney, notice of intent, SE 2676, 1702, F Church Road, perform aquatic management for removal of invasive species in the buffer zone. All right, you're all set, sir. Do you have something to hang up for any,
I don't know, again, I thought I could plug into the computer, and I'm still happy to, but there are pictures in that also, and I can walk around with my computer and show them to you if you want, whatever you prefer.
Mr. Chairman, if I can for the gentleman, and not, this is a very small treatment area. I had only asked that they had a plan submittal, but I know Mr. Mooney has been very cooperative in submitting plans for all the projects he's done on the property, so I'm not criticizing of him not having an actual plan showing the resource areas. This is, if you flip that over, Mr. Chairman, you'll see what I'm referring to. So this is a small area of Phragmites on the existing property, right in front of the licensed seawall that Mr. Mooney has. He has a licensed structure on one end, as well as the extension of a seawall, which he actually got an order of conditions, probably 4 years ago to reconstruct. So, I thank him for that, and I will allow this gentleman to continue, but that's just to give it to you in a very.
And there are maps in there in the packet. So basically, Mr. Moody called us because he noticed an aggressive colonization by an invasive common reed, which we mostly refer to as Phragmites. They've been growing everywhere in the last 50 years in Massachusetts. They're an invasive species, and this is kind of growing within the coastal freshwater wetlands area, right in front of 1702E Drift Road. I came down and saw it. They were about 7 feet. Most Phragmites, grows within 6 to maybe 8.5 feet if it gets in really rich soil. So he's got a pretty good stand there. And as typical, it kind of reduces the vegetative diversity around it because it continues to expand. In this case, it's expanded. It's about, like I said, half an acre linear because it's just following the water line in the kind of soil that it can find there. So our goal is to restore native plants in that area by removing the Phragmites through implementation of selective herbicide treatments as part of a program that's usually 3 years, sometimes 2 years if we were able to treat it really well, which we've done recently in a couple other towns. So we come back to third year, this running year 3. The proposed project is being filed as an ecological restoration limited project under 310 CMR 10.534. We believe it is a good way to protect the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act by controlling an invasive species and improving the wildlife habitat in that area. The infestation basically occurs in the brackish water area along the perimeter of the property, right where it touches the east branch of the West Point River. The growth occupies areas that would be considered under the land under water bodies and waterways, description by the state, and the bordering vegetated wetlands area. The plants are located near a shoreline that's basically rock and sand. The total, covered area of growth, like I said, 0.5 acres. It's located between the two dock structures, as you can see on that map. And the dominant native species in the area, adjacent to that, is grassy lawns, a few trees, some little scrub growth there. So the proposed management program we're asking for is a multi-year approval to selectively control the invasive non-native plant, the Phragmites. And we will use Amazomox, the particular branding that we prefer is Clearcast. It's an aquatic herbicide. It's registered with the US EPA, registered with the Massachusetts Environmental Departments. And the objective is to reduce the infestation, prevent further spread, like I said, restore the native plant diversity. No significant alteration of the wetland will occur. The Phragmites can expand significantly every year once it's established, so dealing with it is increasingly important. And when the frag is gone, the site will be enhanced, we believe, because we've controlled the expanding non-native growth. To give an example, I treated a couple areas, a little bit bigger than this, up in Marlborough, 2 areas. The second year we came back, it was probably about 85% gone, but 15% remained. Treated it the third year, usually it's a 3-year program, we came back, no treatment was needed. There was actually some cattails coming up in the same area, and then the other area, there was some ivy coming up. So the native plants do come back once you get rid of the Phragmites, which is kind of a pig. It'll take all the nutrients, it'll take all the space that it can. So the Phragmites at the site will be selectively sprayed with Clearcast. The application is done by our technicians wearing low volume back sprayers where it's sprayed directly on the plant. The plant absorbs it, goes down to the roots, kills the roots. And that's basically why I like to do it probably about August, sometimes into September, because it's a fully formed, mature plant. And then as the weather gets colder, just like a tree sucks sap down, this will actually suck its nutrients down, including the treatment that's been on there. Like I say, estimated 85 to 90% in the first year. Treatment in consecutive years is suggested, but may not always be required if it's done well. So that's the basics of it right there.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Chris?
I think he did a great job. I have no argument for the management of the Phragmites within that property at 1702 H, is it H?
Yeah.
E Drift Road. In the way that they have depicted, they are a noted company for this removal techniques, and I would consider them the experts in this field. So I support what they are considering for this treatment of Phragmites.
Do any notification or anything like that before they go down and do it?
They standard would, probably 48-hour notice for our standard conditions, so would standard conditions,
All right.
Mr. Chairman, would apply.
Any questions? Anybody?
Has anyone else in the river treated like this?
Not through us that I know of.
They-
We certainly
well,
have
they-
places, we do hundreds around the
Yes,
state.
correct. Yeah, Solitude is one of the bigger companies, but they are a few other treatment areas that this company has done, and a few other companies, yes.
Okay.
It has been successful.
I say, once they're established, none of the natives are there, I was gonna say, if you hit the whole.
They tend to push them out, yeah. And they won't come back, the natives usually come back afterwards. Usually you don't have to transplant. Some people, once they have that bare area, like to transplant native in there and leave that up to the individual.
Just for the owner, was there anything here before?
No.
No.
This is a new crop.
Well, there is some wash that comes out there from the drainage, you know, the hills, et cetera. So I
Correct.
think what's probably happened is some soil particles have come down. The Phragmites landed there, and it's like, oh, this is a great place to grow, and they did so. You know.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the table? Nothing from the audience? All right, looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Standard conditions.
Is that you, Kevin?
Yes.
All right, so Jason and Kevin, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't recognize you in the audience.
Okay, now we have the certificate of compliance with Douglas Palmer, SC 82372 416 River Road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Frederick Palmer Estate and Richard Beers. These are two properties, 416 and 412 River Road. Certificate of compliance was submitted on behalf by Alan Haru, the engineer of record, and he has submitted a letter that the project meets the approved plans as designed. The dock was constructed along the west branch of the river. All work was completed according to the plan of record, and the slope stops are included. Recommendations, Westport Conservation Commission should grant the full certificate of compliance for Frederick Palmer Estate and Richard Beers, SE 802372. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion or discussion?
I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Okay, a motion from Jason, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Tom? All those in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimous then. Next, we have an extension for KRG Realty, SC 82225 Island Bentley Lane.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. This is Bentley Lane Phase 2 development. This project extends back out to Highland Ave, and this section of the project has not yet been completed. So the applicant here, the owner, has filed a request an extension to the order of conditions for file number SE 802225 for 3 years. The project has an outlet to Highland Ave as part of the approved design that is still pending. The lots within this first portion are built out, and the section should be moving forward in the near future. The last section out to Highland Ave requires a wetland alteration and associated replication with that road construction. I recommend to the board that the Westport Conservation should grant a 3-year extension for KRG Realty Trust, file number SE 802225 for 3 years.
All right, do we have any discussion or motion?
Move to approve the 3-year extension.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Burr, all those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
That's unanimous then. Okay. We
You have bills, Mr. Chairman, I believe. I'm
can
not
actually do all the
sure.
minutes,
Oh, we can, we haven't tried.
yeah. So we have East Bay Media, $246 for advertising, look for a motion to pay.
Motion to pay.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Jason. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous then. And we have minutes from 4/25/23. Let's see who's here. Myself, Vernon, Tom, Phil, and Kevin. Jason and Jake Rock, okay, are not available. So we just need a motion to
For-
approve.
Tom, Phil, and Kevin.
To what?
That's what you said, right?
Everybody but Jake. and Jason.
Pretty, yeah, you guys are
We
good.
should be good.
So I
All
don't want
right.
Jake or Jason to make a motion.
We're not gonna say,
You're not gonna say Jack Henry?
I'm not gonna oppose it.
Do we have a motion to approve?
How could they do
Move to approve the minutes.
It's like boring.
Mention the boring
Second?
Yeah.
I second the motion.
There you
Bill
go.
and myself. All those in favor, opposed,
Aye.
abstentions? All right, Jake and Jason abstain. You have to sign it, yeah.
Oh, you get a phone call.
Mr. Chairman, I have two
Go ahead.
things I'd like to discuss. The first, I did send you guys information in an email regarding DEP intervening for 6 Union Ave and taking a superseding action against the issuance of the order of conditions that the commission issued. I find some of their comments, I'm not sure if they got the revised plans, but some of their comments don't reflect what I think that we took into consideration with this project. So I think we acted in accordance with the regs. I was curious why they think they expanded beyond what was there, which is not. So again, we'll see what the state has to do on that. But I did give you the date, it's May. I'm not off the top of my head, but it's the later part of May.
25th, I think.
I think it may be the 25th, Phil, thank you. I'll send you guys a notice, or I can remind you at the next meeting. The other thing, which I think is a positive note, is I got a call after the Board of Health and Chairman Tanya Ryden made some few calls to the state. We finally have some concerns from them on scheduling a site visit at 2 properties. 136 Old Pine Hill Road and 132 Narrow Ave. Both properties are owned and actively used by the Ferry family, and there is some concerns the commission has, especially with 136 Old Pine Hill Road, that they have not been in compliance with the regulations and use of that property. They currently have a notice of non-compliance with the state and it has not been finalized. So the state has also informed me that they would like to go to their other property at 132 Narrow Ave as well, and do a site visit. So they asked today that I coordinate with all parties and the owners to see what dates could be available for that site visit. And that site visit is with all parties, including solid waste from DEP. So that is something I think is hopefully can come to a resolution to consider getting those issues corrected on the property. I think that's the last thing I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks.
Yes, it is. That's all I have.
Anybody else have anything they want to bring up at the meeting?
So Chris, on the Old Pine Hill visit, is that for the enforcement order or is that for the dumping? Is it both?
It's for both.
They realize that there's been like 3 trucks a day in there.
They are aware. So I think it's finally come to, I'll just say the pictures I got from March basically tell 1,000 words.
The landscape changes
I
weekly.
I send them these near map images and they just got the most recent one. And, you know, you can see that there's encroachment. As far as Narrow Ave, I've had it under my radar. That property is owned by Hugh McGovern and his sibling. I believe his son is actively involved, and the Ferry Farm leases that property. So obviously he'll be notified, as well as the Ferry family. So we'll see what comes of it.
Are they taking the waste from Narrow and bringing it to Old Pine Hill?
They may be bringing the stuff to both locations.
No, it's coming from
Yeah,
the Kearney
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but
Yep,
he may be bringing it to both sites. Or last year he brought it to Narrow Ave.
Right.
I can,
Yeah,
for the record, say I have seen 3 trucks a day myself heading to Old Pine Hill Road.
yep.
And the same woman, it's actually a woman truck driver, and I recognized her on 3 passings, so I know she was doing her return trip, so she's roughly coming every 2 hours. And there's these people, they're getting paid to get rid of this material. This isn't being given, so there is a residual use of this material, but there's a discrepancy on what type of material it may be. There's a type 1 and a type 2 material. Type 1, I believe, doesn't require extensive testing, which they're claiming this material is. I guess in the type 2 material, it requires testing. And this first type 1's not supposed to have an odor, but I'm getting complaints of odors. So that's what this is gonna come to, and see where the material is being placed is also part of the whole process. Alrighty.
Chris, on the Union Ave one, they basically never got a DEP file number, so then,
No, they got a file number, they got everything through, and the state, after we took action, intervened on our action.
on our acceptance of the project, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they intervened because they see we may not have acted in accordance to something that
Okay.
they feel we didn't do, but I thought we didn't let them cut into the tree
No,
line.
no.
We told them to keep it right at the tree line, and they could do a little work, but
Yeah.
we didn't let them, I don't know if they're referring to that fenced-in area, but that's pre-used area, so I think we operated in accordance, and they may see it differently when we saw it at the site ourselves, so.
I took it that they considered, even though there might have been invasive vegetation that the owner wanted to remove, that they viewed that vegetation as still promoting riverfront interests.
Correct.
And so, what we might have considered was, just removing the vegetation and not doing any other activity on the property as being neutral or not being redevelopment work. I kind of got the impression that DEP thought it was an alteration.
Correct. And they were looking, I think, for mitigation. I think that's where they
Yeah.
were leaning towards, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be educational to figure this out.
Thank you. I think I like that because it does give us a different perspective on
Yeah.
reviewing some of these older sites.
Yeah.
I think once you see that, I think the site visit clarified. that-
I believe it did too.
You have to see it. I had
Yes.
questions about it, then I saw it, and the project made a lot more sense.
Yeah, it's not like they're already very close to the river to begin with. There really is no setback to the river, if you know what I'm saying. But again, hopefully we can see a condition maybe slightly differently.
But they might have viewed it as a kind of just a sensitive location because it was so close.
Correct.
At the head of the,
Not
not the head of the river, but at least in terms of where it's coming into West Point.
Right, well, actually, it is the headwaters of that
Yeah.
section of the river,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
truthfully.
So maybe
Does
they
the
would.
Forever own that water anyway?
Florida doesn't own that section, they own the dam across the way, right?
All right, we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? All right, that was, for, Bill.